think the big aha moment is I was at a practice that I had been reliefing for since I started relief. And I was talking to the practice owner and I'm like, hey, I'm going to be able, like, if you want, I can bring these services in. I can do massage and I can do herbal consults for your patients. And she literally looked at me and said, I don't understand. You're a relief veterinarian. Why would you bother learning any of those things? And just like, I looked at her and like, well, I guess I'm probably just going to start a house call practice.
Brava, the moment of truth. Yes.
Yes. I was just like, all right, well, I guess I'm starting a house call practice.
Hi, guys, and welcome to the House Call Vet Cafe podcast. I'm Dr. Eve Harrison. I'm a full-time integrative concierge house call veterinarian in Los Angeles, and I help other vets to build their unique mobile practices on their terms. This podcast is for and by house call and mobile veterinarians, so it is meant to give our community a platform to connect, to share our stories, to lift each other up, and to support each other. Most of us work solo as lone wolves, right? So for me, it's been really powerful to be able to physically hear the voices of my colleagues from all over the world and to get a chance to feel that we truly are part of a community of very real other human beings who get it. While you may be alone in that little bubble of your own vehicle when you're on the road seeing patients, I welcome you to join our community by tuning into our own podcast when you're on your way to your next house call. Whether you're a super experienced house call vet with 30 years of experience, you're a brand new prospective house call vet just looking to get started, or you're house call curious, there will be something for you in this podcast. Each episode, you will hear interviews from other mobile veterinarians just like yourself who are doing unique and innovative things, vets who are sharing their stories, their struggles and challenges, and you can also look forward to hearing valuable information and perspectives from specialists and experts outside of our micro niche. And finally, if becoming a house call veterinarian is something that you've been thinking about exploring, or you're looking for some extra support getting your own mobile practice to feel more profitable and sustainable for you, check out the information in the show notes about my course and our above and beyond supportive private community for members only, plus our monthly group coaching sessions within the House Call Vet Academy. You can also check out my free public Facebook group, which is also called the House Call Vet Cafe, the same name as this podcast, and which is a warm and cozy community for mobile vets to support each other in professional and personal development, in creative entrepreneurship, and in friendship. So thank you guys for spending time with me today. Let's dive into the episode.
Hey, everyone. I have a really special guest with us today. We have Dr. Tai Ogg with us, who is a wonderful human. She's in the Concierge Vet Mastermind, so I've gotten to know her really well, which has been a privilege. So Dr. Tai Ogg graduated from Iowa State University in 2014. She spent the first 5 years after graduation as an associate working in privately owned and corporate medicine before transitioning to full-time relief work in 2019. She has worked in emergency, shelter medicine, general practice, and urgent care. She started her own healing journey in 2020 that led her to learn Reiki, become a shamanic practitioner, and become certified in medical massage and botanical medicine for companion animals. She opened her own integrative mobile practice, Wilder Path Wellness, in January 2025 after feeling the pull to slow down for the benefit of pets and their guardians. She currently resides in the southwest suburbs of Chicago with her husband, stepson, and their pit mix, Fiona, who is absolutely adorable. I've met her before through the interwebs. In her free time, she enjoys hiking, gardening, and making jewelry. So welcome, Dr. Tai. I'm so glad you're here with us.
Hi, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you the question that I always ask to start out the episodes. What is your favorite snack to eat in the car?
So I'm not actually a huge snacker. I try to behave when I'm on the road. Otherwise, I will mindlessly eat. But if I'm at the gas station, I can absolutely be tempted by some Cheez-Its. Yeah, because it's crunchy, salty. It tends not to make a huge mess. So that tends to be my go-to road trip snack.
That's awesome. Cheez-Its are surprisingly well contained. They don't crumble and make a mess everywhere, right?
Yes, which is nice. My car doesn't need any more crumbs.
Boy, do I relate to that. I actually also relate to Cheez-Its, have a very special place in my heart because at my surgical residency in the Bay Area, which I got fired from, I'm formally telling people the truth. I got fired from it after year 2. They had free Cheez-Its. There were Cheez-Its everywhere, and I was eating them constantly, and I gained like 300 pounds. Cheez-Its remind me of me trying to comfort myself in the midst of this horrific experience, but they are really good, and I share your appreciation for the Cheez-Its. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Gotta have those emotional support carbs.
That's right, emotional support carbs. That's exactly what they were. So, you have had a really interesting journey that I'm really excited to dive into, and I think a lot of people are going to be really interested in your story. I'd like to start with just hearing a little bit about how you became a house call vet and what your journey was like to getting there.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned in my intro, I spent my first 5 years as an associate. Right out of school, it's hard to believe now because there's so many job opportunities, but right out of school was like still tail end recession. So there wasn't a lot of opportunities, especially for new grads. But so I ended up back in Indiana, which I said I would never ever do. At a semi-rural practice, general practice, I was there for 3 years before deciding that it just was not for me and I needed to do something else. So I started practicing in the city with a small corporation at the time and very quickly discovered that corporate medicine is not for me because they don't really care as much about the pets. They care a lot about how much money you're making. And that just was like stressful. It got to the point there's this big bridge that goes from Indiana over into Chicago called the Skyway, and I had to take it every morning for work, and I'd hit the top of the bridge and my anxiety would kick in. And one day I was driving and I'm just like, I can't keep doing this. Like, enough is enough. I've got to be doing something different. I either need to leave the profession or figure out something else to do within the profession. So I decided to start dipping my toe into relief work and decided that was a much better option for me. It just took all the pressure off of you need to be making this for your average client transaction and everything. And I just like it was too stressful at the time being a newer grad. It felt like a lot of pressure to put on myself. So I became full-time relief in, I think it was July of 2019, and then just kind of started like trying out other things, shelter medicine, emergency, which is not for me. It's too stressful. I don't need that. And in 2020, there was a lot. There was a lot going on. I was in a bad relationship that just there was a lot going on there. And I'm like, I need to do something. So I started seeing a therapist and like really delving into what was going on with me. And I'm like, I just needed to do something different and figure out how to go, through life because I did not learn healthy coping mechanisms as most of us don't. And vet med is not surprisingly very hard on your mental health. Through that's kind of how I met the person that trained me in Reiki. So I did my level 1 and level 1 through level 3 training with her. And through her is how I met Donna, who has trained me to become a shamanic practitioner. And oh my goodness, how long ago was that now? 2023, I think. I think it was 2023. I started training to become a shamanic practitioner and kind of went through that program. And certainly we can talk more about that. That's a whole long and long process.
Oh, it will.
So I went through that program. It was a 20-month program working on people. And honestly, as much like information as I learned and like as tools I took away from it, it was a really huge transformative process for myself. And just the amount of healing and who I went in as and who I came out as on the other side were two very, very different people. And I think that really kind of was the tipping point for me of like, okay, I don't know quite where I'm going with all of this yet, but I'm going somewhere. And I know I'm going to figure it out and it's going to unfold how it unfolds, but there's something to this. So I signed up for, I think, botanical medicine and massage at around the same time. I'm like, I'm doing this thing, I'm learning new skills. And I think the big aha moment is I was at a practice that I had been relieving for since I started relief. And I was talking to the practice owner and I'm like, hey, I'm going to be able, like, if you want, I can bring these services in. I can do massage and I can do herbal consults for your patients. And she literally looked at me and said, I don't understand. You're a relief veterinarian. Why would you bother learning any of those things? And just like, I looked at her and like, well, I guess I'm probably just going to start a house call practice.
Brava, the moment of truth. Yes.
Yes. I was just like, all right, well, I guess I'm starting a house call practice. I have a friend that does in-home euthanasia and acupuncture and kind of palliative care, end of life stuff. And so I talked to her and I'm like, all right, what the heck am I doing? I started putting everything in place because it wasn't the first time I'd opened a business. So it's like, okay, I know how to go through those steps. But then it was like advertising and all the things. It's a lot. I'm glad that's where I ended up and it's been great. So I opened my practice January 1st of last year was my official open date. And it's been a weird, interesting time, and I loved it. I absolutely love every single one of my house call patients and clients that have stuck around. I've had a few that have been a one and done, and that is perfect, and that's what they needed at the time. And I was happy to part ways. But yeah, it's been like this really amazing, wonderful, I guess, year and a half journey. And then I joined the concierge vet mastermind
Yeah.
a few months ago. And that's been really, really great. And I'm getting ready to pitch to those first concierge clients. So I'm very excited about that. So that is kind of where I started and where I'm at the moment.
I love your journey so much. The beginning is so very relatable. And then as your story progresses, my own story is so similar to yours. It's very interesting what you said about the shamanic practitioner training changing you. I love how you shared that this was actually a step in your becoming a house call vet. This wasn't just a story that you told me. This was the story of how you became a house call vet, right? And I love how you shared you were one person before that training and a different person afterwards. And for me, very similarly, my process was I was so, fucked in the head based on our profession and corporate and everything that you described. I relate so to the T what you said. And it's also just very interesting for me to hear that story because I know you and I'm like, how did you allow yourself to be in corporate for 1 second? I know who you are. I can't imagine you enjoying that. But yeah, you made your escape and I'm so proud of you and for both of us, right? But for me, it was the yoga. I did yoga teacher training because I was like, I need to be in a different headspace. Like you have that quote, that's the Einstein quote. Oh my God, I actually have it right here. It's right on my, okay, you can't solve your problems with the same level of thinking that created them, right? So we had to go into a different brain space completely in order to move forward is what I hear in your story and how my story feels. Does that feel true to you?
Yeah, I think of it a lot of times, like putting it in perspective of like we do all of this training to become like the veterinarian that we think that we're supposed to be and the person that we think that we're supposed to be. And I think we get so wrapped up in that being our identity that
Completely.
doing all of the training is almost like an unbecoming and then a remembering of who you actually are.
100%. And I literally the words that I think of this process as an undoing of this sort of illusion of the limited self.
For sure. Yeah.
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 I love how you said that. So good. And I think a lot of people will relate to that feeling of being on the brink of leaving the profession. Either I need to leave or else, right? Like
Yeah.
something has to change. And I very much relate to that. And I think a lot of our listeners will as well. And I love that you had this kind of like experience with Reiki and how that pulled you into this with this sort of trusted mentor that you have. I'm also Reiki trained. And what's very interesting is my second house call client ever was a Reiki practitioner, and she trained me in exchange for house calls, but she ended up being a little bit odd. So we parted ways over time, and it didn't blossom into this beautiful training of shamanistic practitionering, which you've done, but that it just brought back a memory. So thank you for that. I have a question for you.
Of course.
We're going to talk a little bit more about the shamanism in a minute and how you incorporate that into the veterinary context. And for our listeners, we had Tai speak on shamanism inside our Soul Shine space for vets as well, just a few weeks ago, and it was lovely, and people really, really were inspired. I don't think I've told you this, but there were a few people that said to me, I think what Tai is doing is what I actually want to do. That's the path I want to go down. So I think you really inspired people and kind of allowed people to go in that direction because it's so taboo, all this, just like your mentor or your boss at the job who just literally looked you in the face and said some what completely invalidating bullshit. That's a lot of our profession. So I think you really speaking this way and sharing your journey and things like that is very important for people. But anyway, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. I'm so excited. Yay. So I have a question. You mentioned botanical medicine. Would you say that's synonymous with herbal medicine, or is it a slightly different practice?
So I would say, because I think most people are really familiar with traditional Chinese herbal medicine. And the particular class that I took was a combination. We touched on a lot of things. So we touched on a little bit of Chinese herbal medicine. We touched on essential oils and Western, more indigenous, like native traditional medicine, a little bit of Ayurvedic medicine. So it covered a lot. It was very, very broad. I think eventually I would like something that was a little bit in more like one tradition, just because it covered so much. It was a really, really great overview. So lots of breadth, not a lot of depth, but it gave me a lot of tools to really be able to go out and look at herbal supplements and be like, okay, is this a good supplement or is this supplement crap and we need to avoid it? Like, what are we looking for here? In that regards, it's been like, it was really, really valuable. And I like that we covered so many things just because now I know where to go when I'm researching for something for a client. I know what resources to look for to be able to find what I want.
I love that. I mean, that's very like enticing. For some reason, like when you say botanical medicine, it hits me more emotional. I want botanical medicine. That sounds beautiful and fragrant and wonderful. Even like even almost from a marketing perspective, I'm like, that might even be a better word. It sounds like it is actually a broader category than herbal. Typically, herbal medicine is ground up plants in capsules. But it sounds like a really nice bird's eye view. That's lovely. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really nice. We talked about topical applications and ingestion and diffusing. And so, again, it was just a really, really good, broad education, which I did appreciate.
Yeah. I think that's really important because when you're in the world of holistic or integrative, often our clients may know more than we do. They may bring us things and we need to at least have heard of it. I mean, it's okay. It's like we can't know everything, and people are on Reddit and they're on Instagram and they're finding this and that and acronyms that I never heard of before. They're bringing to me and I'm happy to hear about it. But it feels much better when I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm familiar with that. Let's dive in together. So I think that it sounds really valuable, the education you had.
Absolutely have had clients come to me. I think the one I had to be like, okay, I've heard of this, but please don't use it, is the black salve. Where I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
it's a little different when you use it in people because people know not to eat it, but pets not so much. So I'm like, it's probably okay, but please don't. I would prefer you did it.
Can you tell the listeners what that is, if you could?
So it's a concoction of herbs, and it's very common in the Amish community, which is funny because I grew up in an area that was very, very predominantly Amish. So it's really, really common there, but you can just put it on growths and things, supposedly, and it will form this big, ugly scab and just fall off and be magically better. I'm a little suspicious at it. I know it's promoted a lot in some of the certain holistic communities. And like, that's the person that she's on a lot of forums that brought it to me. And I understand. And I understand that they also talked about it at your church, but please don't use it in your pet.
I'm not prepared to deal with the aftermath if it doesn't go well. But that's also part of a decision to work with someone at any given botanical medicine or any medicine at all. If you're not comfortable with what could possibly happen or you're not prepared, that's a very valid reason. It may be that the medicine would be great, but it may not be. We have to be prepared for all outcomes, right?
For sure. And I'm like, I would say a pretty bold, let's try this kind of practitioner, because I have a client that's gotten an experimental chemotherapy. But like, there are certain things where I'm just like, I'm going to go with no. Like, it's not safe for your pet. There are other options. We can do other things. Please, let's not use something that's unintentionally going to harm your pet.
I love that about you. I've been really admiring how you are as a veterinarian, how you are willing to research and willing to go the distance and ask and go outside the box to make sure your patients are doing well. And that is completely balanced with that conservative side. That's we're not going to hurt your animal. We're not going to go so far out the box that I'm willing to risk harm, you know? So I really love that balance that I see in you. And for our listeners in Concierge Vet Mastermind, we have a private community and we have some channels. And in one of the channels, we have medical questions where we can get support with cases that we're working on for our concierge or house call patients or otherwise. It's just, what does the community think of this case? And you've had some really interesting cases that you brought. And I just loved how really outside the box and really smart solutions you've kind of proposed and brought to the group. And it's triggered some really high level medicine conversations. So thank you for that. And
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I have the unfortunate, I have still yet to decide over a decade in. I attract a lot of really weird cases, like really weird.
you do.
I have seen a pet that had an actual biopsy diagnosed case of scleroderma.
Where?
Yeah,
Whoa.
like that kind of weird,
Yep,
where it's
yep,
just like,
yep.
cool. What am I supposed to do with this? That one sticks with me the most because I went on Venn to be like, okay, what do I do? And Venn didn't have answers.
Of course not.
Of course it didn't. Venn had no answers. They're like, well, we don't really know. It's not really a thing, except that this one had been diagnosed somewhere in Colorado, I think, and they moved. And so now they were at this new practice. And it's just like, here, relief veterinarian, here's this weird case.
On relief, you get these cases. Jeez. Fuck. That's
Yeah.
rough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a
Amazing.
choice in the matter. You're like, this is the case in front of me.
Yeah. It's fine, like, when they're my own patients, it's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
This is the type of stuff I attract. It is what it is. But yeah, when it's relief, it's like, okay, here's this really weird case. Have fun, figure it out. Good luck. Bye. Yeah. It's been a time. It constantly keeps me on my toes. So I guess there's that. I get to learn a lot about a lot of really weird things.
Yeah, you embrace the weird, raise your weird flag, as they say, right? It's great. Bring it on and you rise to the challenge. I love how you do that. And really with a good attitude and a good vibe, too. It's very inspiring, truly.
It's kind of a running joke at this point. So all the technicians at the places that I work, like I work at an urgent care for relief pretty regularly, and they're like, well, you're here, so we're going to see weird things. Like, thanks, God. So it is just kind of a running joke at this point. And they're just like, of course you would get this case because it's you. And it's like, thank you. Yes. I love that this is what the universe constantly likes to throw at me.
Yes. The inner weird sees and honors the inner weird in you.
Yes.
Yes, I love it. The universe respects the inner weirdness. And on that note, I wasn't going to talk about this, but it popped into my head. We've discussed, to the extent that you feel comfortable discussing this, we've dipped a toe into the neurodivergence realm. The two of us have our own things, right? Would you say that has any influence or bearing on your practice or how your career has been shaped or where you've ended up or what types of cases come to you and how you show up for them? Really curious about that.
That's a really good question. I think it's fun because I know we've talked about I'm some kind of neurospicy, but I don't know. I have no official diagnosis. I have an ADHD husband that has a very ADHD child, and I have some things that fall into ADHD categories where I love change and I love novelty, which I think is why I do so well jumping from thing to thing. And it's just, ooh, what new thing can I learn? Shiny. Let me go follow this, which is great. And sometimes I have to consciously rein it back in. I'm like, okay, I do have to finish this thing that I started. So I would say it's definitely made it less terrifying to jump from career to career and start over because I don't know, I've done it before, so I can do it again. And so I think that has made it a little easier. And I speculate that I'm ADHD because I do have some characteristics where I can sit down and I can focus and I can work on a project for a while and I can have systems and lists and things in place. And that's totally fine. But I also don't get upset if something doesn't go exactly how I thought it was going to go. Like, it is not the end of the world for me. So it's so interesting because I've never really thought about this. Just like, I don't know, I guess this does affect how I practice and how I approach things. There's so many different things that go into that, though. My healing journey of like how I would approach things before and how I would show up before and how I show up now. I guess I'm not masking anymore. So, like, I show up as myself. And myself is weird and quirky, and I will be weird and quirky with clients. And this is what you get. And take it or leave it. I'm not for everybody, and that is okay. Everybody is not for me. I make weird voices at pets in front of owners, and I'll say weird off the cuff things that honestly, most of the time, they land and owners think they're hilarious. Sometimes they just stare at me like I'm a crazy person. I'm like, okay, cool. You don't have a sense of humor. That's okay. We're moving on. Yeah, I think just because I am just a weird, like, all over the place kind of person, it also makes it really easy. As a relief veterinarian, it's made it really easy for me to just jump in and just blend with a team. Like,
Roll with
it's
the
really,
punches.
really rare that I've had a team where I'm just like, okay, we don't jive. Like, this isn't working. Usually that more is the way the medicine is going type of situation, or just clinic culture where that isn't a good fit. But it has made it, I would say, house call wise, it's made it easy because I have very wildly different clientele of people that are like super into the woo woo, and then people like, but also believe in science. And then there's people
Don't believe
that like, we have to have a conversation, and that's okay. And, it's just a lot of like meeting people where they're at and what they're comfortable with, and like educating them because there's a lot of information out there. And it's like, okay, well, is this good information or bad information or indifferent information? Yeah, now that we have completely derailed and gone neurodivergent people too.
It's yeah. No, it's great. No, I mean, it's so interesting what you're describing. It sounds like you really have a lot of those gifts that you see in the neurodivergent types of people, like the sort of unique and weird, but can also hang with unique and weird. And that's normal to folks like us. And then you got the hyper focus and you have the roll with the punches, which I don't know if that's a neurodivergence or just like an awesome personality quality. But it is, to me, my dad is spectrum E. Also, a lot of people don't have a diagnosis, but the more we learn, the more we're like, oh, that personality quirk, that's a symptom. But that's one frame of reference where you can look at that. It doesn't have to be pathologized, right? It doesn't have to have a name even, but it can be helpful and it can be celebrated, and worked with. So to me, neurodivergence is very comfortable for me to be around. In fact, I love it. I love unmasked neurodivergence. It's like the spice of life. Like, that's where I feel most comfortable. That's the people that I love the most, where I'm like, you're odd. Let's be friends. I love this. And I love how you discuss that maybe the shamanic training sort of helped you learn to unmask. That's really profound right there. I'm really excited about that and that you shared that. This all really kind of goes along with this theory that I've had for a while. I'm putting a lecture together. I'm not sure for what, but it's about neurodivergence and entrepreneurship, particularly in veterinary entrepreneurship and the house call space. And I think it's it's like a real magnetism. That's like, you're neurodivergent, you're going to end up as a house call vet. Just 3, 2, 1. There you are. That's as I suspected. Here you are in my world. Amazing. Welcome. I think for people who kind of go on an unconventional path, which you clearly are on a shamanic veterinarian, that not everyone does that, right? So it doesn't surprise me to see you in the house call space, doing your own thing, on your own terms, on your own timeline, in your own, like, lovely, quirky, weird way, bringing this beautiful, like, botanical medicine and shamanism to your patients and connecting with everyone else who's weird and loves animals and wants them to feel better. And you bring your, like, fantastic brain that will go down the rabbit hole and hyper focus until you find the solution. What a gift. I think that's amazing. I do want to say, I mean, obviously, I'm not a psychiatrist or anything, but there is something about you that reminds me of other people I know who have the ADHD thing. So I don't know, pattern recognition, coming back to traditional Chinese veterinary medicine. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. What do you think of that? Does that track?
Yeah, I would say it's everywhere now. So you read all these lists of like all these characteristics of each different type of person. That's probably where I fit. I don't need the diagnosis, but
Right.
as far as like being neurodivergent and ending up in the house call space, I think it's a lot of there's absolutely neurodivergent people everywhere in veterinary medicine. They're all over the place. Like it's just how the profession it is and what type of people they attract.
Mhm.
I would say, like, for me, it was constantly, and this has been my whole life because I've always been a weird kid. It's just
I would have
turned
loved to
into
have known
like
you as a child.
it turned into this trying to conform, but not really conforming teenager, early adult. But they turned into a very weird adult in their 30s and just came full circle. I've never really felt like I've fit in places. And that's always been just, it's like, okay, well, I don't really fit in traditional medicine because I want to talk to somebody for an hour about this thing because I'm passionate about it and they need to know all of my knowledge about it, whether they want to or not. I have absolutely had people be like,
Yeah.
you're really thorough. Yes. Oh, wait. It's like, yes, but now you know.
That's fair.
I feel better because you know. So whether you wanted to or not, like now you know. So yeah, it's not surprising to me that like I ended up both of my parents are entrepreneurs. And so for me to like end up in this entrepreneurial space is 100% not surprising to me whatsoever. I didn't know where I was going to end up. Like, certainly the person that entered vet school that wanted to work for the government and the person that I am now are very, very different people. It's wild. I walk around with this board certification in preventive medicine. Other than info dumping on people about infectious diseases and environmental protection and like how to prevent certain things and toxicology and things like that, I don't use it. I just use it for info dumping. And
I love it. Oh, I relate to the info dumping. I really, really do. This is so interesting. I wanted to loop back to kind of the conversation about diagnosis. Does it matter? Pathologizing, all that. And the way I thought about it for a very long time and still do is that a lot of, at the very extremes of these spectrums of neurodivergence, this might not be applicable, but sort of towards the middle, I think of it as archetype more so than diagnosis, where if it's you're functional, you're not really severely affected where you can't engage in the world or hold a job or whatever. I think of it up until that point, this is an archetype, a type of personality that maybe others are like you and have these strengths and these weaknesses. What does that feel like to you? I'm curious because for a while, that archetype language just felt really comforting, inclusive, not inclusive, but accurate. Just, I don't have a disorder. I have a set of traits that I need to work with in a certain way and that bring me gifts as well, things that I can do better than other people, but then also challenges. And to me, that doesn't feel like a disorder at all. You know what I mean?
yeah, I would agree. I think the archetype language is nice too. Like, we don't need to put a label on it. Like, I know I'm weird. I know I have weird characteristics and that I have some quirks and things that do sometimes make it really difficult where I have to catch myself like, ooh, okay, I can engage with this person even though I find small talk incredibly painfully boring and I don't want to engage in it. Yep, it's sunny outside. We can both see that. Oh, it's really hard for me, but I'm more exhausted at the end of the day where I have to engage in that type of way versus where I get to just be my wild, feral, neurospicy self and interact how I want to interact with people. And I will say I'm to the point now where even if I'm in a practice and I'm there. I do have a part-time job. So even at that part-time job, it's like, you're going to get a really weird veterinarian right now. And you're either we're going to jive and this is going to be great, or we're going to have a really awkward interaction. And it's going to be uncomfortable for everybody. And when it's over, we're both going to be relieved. And that's okay. Like, I walk out of that room and I'm just like, well, that was weird and I don't want to do it again, but I'll go on to the next thing. And I know that people do appreciate it. They do appreciate that I show up as my authentic self, because I have gotten comments, not from my house call, that's a whole separate thing, but comments from when I am in a general practice of, oh my God, like, thank you for being this way. And we really enjoy seeing you. And you're so wonderful. And you're so caring and so compassionate. And it's really great to hear that I get to show up as my authentic self.
Mhm.
And that's appreciated. Because I feel like, unfortunately, in school, you get trained to, this is the type of person that you have to be, and don't show emotion and don't cry in front of owners. I'm going to cry. I'm a crier. Like,
Oh, me too.
I'm a crier. I can't help it. And it's like, that's just my response. I don't have any control over it. If it's coming on, it's coming on. And we're going to cry, and we're going to cry together. And sometimes the owner's not crying and I cry. And I'm like, it's just how I respond. And I felt so shameful about that when I first started practicing, where in the back of my head, I just kept thinking of, oh, you need to get it together. It's not professional to cry in front of people. And it feels so gross. You just feel so exhausted and awful at the end of the day, because you're just shoving it down of all these emotions. We're people and we need to feel, and that is normal. And those feelings are temporary. And I need to feel the feel so that it's gone and it's out of my system and I can go back to regulating normally. And I think we get so stuck in that we just constantly shove all the feelings down, and then we wonder why we have all of these people that have just terrible mental health issues, is because we're told that we shouldn't be feeling our feelings, and that's just not healthy.
Absolutely. I love that you brought this up. This is something that is absolutely not talked about enough. I'm a crier too. People in the House Call Vet Academy and Concierge Vet Mastermind and Soulshine have all seen me cry during calls. I process that way as well. I'm emotionally liberated or something. If the tears are coming, they're coming. But I've been through a very, very similar process. The shame of tears, the shame of, especially in, I always talk about that white coat straight jacket that is basically a mask. That's what it is. You put on the white coat and suddenly you're someone else who doesn't have feelings and doesn't cry, doesn't emote, doesn't feel. Some of the stuff we do is some of the most traumatic stuff that you can possibly witness or be a part of or do, right, as veterinarians. So it baffles me that tears and emotionality are just not discussed, not okay. They're shamed. And whether the shame comes from within or from the system, I'm not sure where. But I absolutely love that you shared this vulnerably on air. It's so important. It's so important for people to hear. The subject of crying specifically, visibly emoting so that water's coming out of your face. I can't remember if I've shared this on this podcast before, but I cried every euthanasia, every single one of them. And I also felt shamed. I felt, is this okay? This is not professional, quote unquote professional, right? And at one point I polled all of my friends, not actual clients, but friends. If your vet euthanized your animal and they were crying, would you be like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on? They unanimously, every single one of them was like, oh my God, that would mean more to me than you could ever imagine. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. Holy moly. That's very important information. And people want to be in it's not co-regulation, but it's co-experiencing and know that they're not alone in their feelings. It's validating and it's humanizing, and it's like, your pain is real. I feel it with you. And that's very meaningful to people. So after I heard that, I stopped holding it back and I just let it out. And the funny thing is, when you allow it, it becomes less of that sort of like, where you're just sort of like, oh my God, I'll never stop crying. But if you let it out a little bit and just really encourage the movement of tears, it's somehow a little bit more under control. It feels like, you know what I mean? You know that feeling? You're like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna go, I'm gonna ugly cry if I let it out. And it's like, no, let it out a little bit and then you won't ugly cry. It'll be all right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I know we've talked about this. I don't do euthanasias in my house
Me
call
neither anymore.
practice.
Me neither anymore
Uh,
for this purpose, for this
yeah,
reason.
I offer to be there with my clients if they
Same.
want me to be there and to like ugly cry with them and hold space for them. But I don't want any part in doing the actual
Mm.
euthanasia. It feels too heavy in those situations. In general practice, like if I'm at a day practice working, like it's a little bit different. I do still get teared up sometimes, but with my shamanic training, it really flipped how I view those situations and how I go into
Here
those
we go.
situations.
Tell me all about, let's dive
Yeah.
into shamanism right now. It's time. Oh my God, yes, it's the
For
moment.
sure, for sure. Yeah. So one of the big things, one of the big rules that we have in that space, like when we were in class, is you cannot comfort somebody that is crying and you cannot offer them a tissue. Not allowed. And the reason being, and it's really hard because we want to fix things,
Want to touch, put
especially
the hand on the
like
shoulder. We want, yep, yep,
yeah,
yep.
we want to fix it. And we can't. And that's a really hard thing to sit with. It's a combination of things. It's hard to learn to just witness people and just be there and be that space and just be a witness. Witness them in their emotions, whether they're happy or sad or angry, to just see them. The other side of that is when you are offering someone a Kleenex, sometimes it can make them feel ashamed that they're crying and that they're feeling their feels. And so I went from here's a Kleenex, here, I'm so sorry. Also, we don't apologize in like you don't apologize in shamanism. You just don't. You like
That don't apologize in shamanism. That's a quote right there.
Fall out if you did something wrong, you say their action and it's like, I shouldn't have done that and I apologize for this, but I'm sorry. No, you just don't do it. At least not with my teacher. That may be different with others, but with mine, we don't do I'm sorries. We would get corrected. I think because we also apologize too much.
And then you start crying and then they can't give you a tissue and then the whole thing is a mess.
Right. So I've gone from, I used to just offer and apologize and say, I'm so sorry for your loss. And I was sorry, but it still always felt like disingenuous and it felt weird. Now I will take the box of tissues and I will place them somewhere and I'll tell them, like, the tissues are here if you would like one. I feel like, honestly, since I've started doing that, I feel like I have noticed that more people cry, just like
Yep.
full on ugly cry because I have given them permission to just be like, they're here if you want them. You don't have to take one. If you want full ugly cry, it's not dripping down your face. That's okay. You feel what you need to feel in this moment, and there's no shame in that.
Mm.
It's way less emotionally entangling to go into it with that. And,
Mm.
having talked about death and dying, we talked about death and dying work in shamanism and what it looks like and how beautiful that can be and like how to really honor that soul and that spirit in that time. I don't sing it out loud, but sometimes I will sing to the pet in my head of, the
Chills.
song that came to me during my training for those moments. Just sing them until they're gone. And it's a beautiful experience for me. And I think that it just puts it a much different perspective and it's softer and it's easier. And again, I can walk out of the room, I can take a big deep breath. And I do sometimes, like I said, still tear up a little bit, but it's not the full, like ugly crying. Again, with my clients, because the bond there is so different that they're like family pets. So that's different. I'm going to ugly cry. I will hold space and I will sing to them, but I'm going to ugly cry. And that's just the way it is.
I love that so much. I got chills listening to what you said. And I think that's also an important thing for our profession to hear, that this is a spiritual experience. Passing is a spiritual experience. It doesn't have to be if you're not that type of person, but I think for most people who are, okay, I'm going to say something that others might not agree with, but if you're a healthy person, spirituality is a part of our existence. And I think if we deny that or we shut it down, we make it a completely medicalized experience to end the life or to be a part of that, we destroy a part of ourselves and we make the grief much deeper because we're shutting it down. There's a masking there of even just the fact that there's a spiritual dimension to this experience, right? And I love, you sing in your head until they're gone. You sing to them, you bring your whole self. There's music in you that's showing up. Like, my God, what a beautiful thing. I really love how deliberate you are with your language, how attuned you are. I often talk about how, sort of at the end of my consult or at the end of a conversation, I'll say, or at the end of an email where I've given lab results, I'll say something like, what questions can I answer for you? It's not, can I answer any questions for you? It's, I assume you have questions. Hit me with them. It's a permission slip.
Yeah.
And the way you tell them the tissues are over there if you need them, permission slip. I assume you're going to cry. And if you want a tissue with your tears, you can have one. It has that same feel. That's sort of like the architecture of the question is an assumption. You're going to cry, and it's cool. I assume that. That's part of this experience. That's a very communication technique that you got there and very attuned to the situation. And I love how it's deliberately preventing of shame, right? I love that.
Yeah. And 2 points to hit on is I say the same thing. I always ask, I'm like, okay, what questions do you have? Because you're going to have questions. I mean, sometimes people will say, no, I'm good. Because again, circling back to, I like to info dump. So sometimes they're good. They don't need any further explanation. But other times they have questions. They have clarifying questions, or what I have said has triggered something else. And sometimes I have to ask 5 times, okay, what other questions do you have? And they just
then
coming at me with other questions, which is fine. I want to answer all those questions. As far as you mentioning that we healthy people are in touch with our spirituality, we are spiritual beings that are having a human experience. And I think that we forget that. You don't have to believe in God or Allah or Buddha or any of those things. I was really raised religious, but I don't go to church anymore. But I still believe, because I have seen through my shamanic training, that there is more. There is a higher power, higher being, like creator, spirit, whatever you want to call it. It's there. Whether you want to believe in it or not, it's there. That's just how it is.
That's beautiful. I love that open-ended spirituality. It can feel so different for people. And it reminds me, actually, in the Jewish tradition, you've seen kippah. It's the little hat that covers the head in men. Women have a different version of it in more conservative or orthodox traditions. But for men, that's what most people see. And the purpose of it is to remind you that there's something above you. The world doesn't end here. There's more. To me, it's such a beautiful gesture. It's like there's something above. Always remember that. And you don't have to have it as a piece of your clothing that you're visibly a part of how you dress or whatever. It's a constant reminder. There's something above me. There's something more. It's not just this. It's not just the 3D, so to speak, as it's often referred to in the shamanic traditions and other kind of some new age traditions use that language as well. I love all of this. I would love to get more specific. You mentioned a little bit in your head you're singing, or out loud you're singing when animals pass, and how it's informed your thinking. Is there anything more that you visibly provide in veterinary consults or house calls that is like, this can be identified as shamanism by anyone who's in the room, right? And then also on that same note, I always like to ask about, there are many different shamanistic traditions in all different cultures. Every culture on the planet has shamanism. And so, I mean, ancient and modern and everywhere, all over the globe, right? I would love to know a little bit more about the tradition that your shamanistic practice comes from.
Yeah. So mine was a blend. Now it's primarily indigenous, primarily like North
Indigenous, like North
American.
American. Okay.
Yeah, primarily North American, not fully, but primarily, with a little bit of Celtic in there and then a little bit of Siberian.
Oh, I love Siberian and Celtic shamanism. I love all of the shaman. Oh my God, I love it. By the way, so the Siberian, I'm totally interrupting you here. I'm so
No,
sorry.
you're good.
ADHD people do that. Okay, so Siberian shamanism is very special to me because Amanita muscaria mushrooms, that's the red and white, that's the red mushroom with the white polka dots, like very near and dear to my heart, that type of tradition, and the reindeer and all that. So anyway, as you were, sorry. I had to say that. Speaking of which, by the way, I'm gonna continue interrupting for a minute. If you're watching the YouTube visual version of this, this is a reishi mushroom that has a reindeer carving on it, and Tai has miraculously the same object, which is a reishi mushroom with a beautiful carving of, I can't remember what it is. You sent me a picture of it, but it was like, I found this at a secondhand store and I was like, oh my God, I have to buy this. And it's just a few weeks ago. So this is like my most prized possession. And Ty's like, oh my God, I have one too. What? Okay, I'm done with my side quest.
So mine has a tree frog on it, and also found mine at, I think it was an estate sale, but I've had it for years, so I don't remember. I think I got it as a teenager. But yeah, it has a tree frog sitting on a leaf on the mushroom. It's very cool. It hangs on my wall here in my office, and
I have it. Feel free to bring it onto the screen.
Hold on, let me.
Okay,
it's like right here. So let's
get it. Go get it. Go get it. I should have told you in advance, but this only popped into my head while we were speaking. By the way, if you're on the visuals, look at Ty's beautiful office. It's just beautiful.
I also got the wolf behind me at an estate sale.
Of course you did.
Wow, there's a lot of estate sales. It was an estate sale that I have a ton of taxidermy and some questionable, like, indigenous items. And I'm like, oh, apparently he had some things that had to be taken away by a specific, they had to be donated because he had shot them so long ago that you were no longer allowed to own them. So weird estate sale. So this is mine.
So beautiful. Cheers. Guys, if you're watching the visuals of this, how this moment is the best moment of my life. Oh my God. Okay, anyway, so back to the question at hand, if you remember what it was. Do you need a reminder?
So that was my training. I said blend of a lot of different things. So again, primarily North American indigenous. So, the directions and the circle that sometimes you will see in Native American culture with the white, the yellow, the red, and the black representing the different directions. So that is very much, I would say, the primary thing that I learned from. As far as like how I use it in practice, I know during the Soul Shine that I kind of touched on, a lot of how I use it in practice is communication and approaching people very differently. Where I don't, because it's very easy to get triggered by other people's stuff. I don't get triggered like I used to. It's not to say that it doesn't happen. It still happens when I'm not regulating well. It can still happen, but
you're human.
Yeah. So when people are having big feels or people are like coming in hot with their emotions, it's like, okay, like, where is this coming from? Why are you acting this way? What is going on in your life that has made you decide to lash out in this situation? Is this a fear thing? When is that fear of I'm worried about my pet? Or is that fear of I don't know how I'm going to pay this bill today? I don't know. And I try not to make assumptions about why people are acting the way that they are acting. And I try not to take it personally because it's not anything that I've done. It's their having their feels and their experience, and something that I have said has triggered them. And that's not to say their problem, but that's their experience to have. And the training has really, really helped me just be like, okay, they're having their feels and we're just going to work through this and we're going to de-escalate and we're going to try to suss out what's going on and try to turn this ship around and see can get out of this and make good progress. And I would say that's the big thing. And that's not obviously not going to be outwardly shamanic to people. Like, it just isn't. I'm like, oh, that's definitely shamanism. It's not. It has made my life easier. It has made this career much easier for me, but it's not specifically something that I do. Now, as far as actual shamanic techniques where people are like, okay, yeah, you're bringing in the woo. I have, and this is a blend of traditions. And this is again where it comes in, a blend of traditions. I will do chakra clearing, blessing, like cleansing. And I've done that in front of owners. I bring a little stuffed dog, which, God, I have to tell a side story because it's the most hilarious thing. The first time I brought this little stuffed dog to an appointment, I got out. The people knew. We had discussed the woo. They knew what they were getting into. It was fine. We always discuss it. I feel it out before we jump in and like, hey, this is what I do. So I got this little black dog out because I was seeing this cat that had behavioral issues and was like urinating and defecating inappropriately. There was a lot going on in the home, so it was very understandable. I got the dog out and set it on the coffee table, and the cat came over and was like, oh, what is this? This is interesting. And then just played the dog and ran off. It's like, I'm not having. So anyway, that particular cat had some throat chakra issues going on. I had a lot of feels to express, and he just wasn't expressing them in a healthy way. But it was so cool. It's great to do it because with that particular pet, they had emailed me, afterwards, and they're like, we are absolutely seeing a difference. It has decreased the inappropriate urination and defecation. He had improved so significantly. Now he's gone back to like problems here and there, and they have moved out of the area. So I kind of lost touch with them. And again, they had a lot going on in their home that they just had no real control over. But it was really cool to see in that particular situation, hey, this thing that I did made a difference. So that's one way I've used it. I would say that's the most common way is that I use it is to do chakra clearings, just because it's a really quick, easy, simple thing. It's easy for people to buy into. I get out my pendulum. I go from chakra to chakra so people can see. They can see that, okay, here it's spinning beautifully. And then over this one, it's doing nothing. And that's just such a great visual for people to be like, okay, you can see, you can clearly see. This is not me messing with it and grabbing it to stop it. You can see that, yeah, we've got a blockage here. Things are not moving the way that they should be. And then to go through and remove that and seal them and bless them afterwards and then show them going back through with the pendulum, look how great things are spinning now. I think that's just a really great way for people to see how that can be incorporated and make such a huge difference. I've also journeyed for pets. So journeying is most similar that people would be familiar with to astral projection. It's not quite the same. It's a little bit different in the shamanic tradition where you have 3 worlds. So you have the lower world, which I know sounds scary. It's not the underworld. That's just where your nature spirits and things like that are. And then you have the middle world, which is the world that we are in, the plane that we are currently existing in, but from a spiritual perspective. And then you have the upper world. So that's where your ancestors, your guides, your guardians, your angels, those types of things. That's where you're going to run into that type of stuff. Your higher self, which is kind of where that comes into play, is when I've journeyed for pets, I will go to the upper world and meet with their higher self, and they will tell me things. And some of these things I then pass on to the owners. Some of these things, they're for me and for me only. They'll tell me, hey, this is for you to know, but please don't pass this on for whatever reason. Anytime I share that with an owner, because it can bring up feelings, I'm like, take what resonates with you and leave what doesn't. If this just doesn't feel like it's hitting, it doesn't make sense. Look, they're going to tell me weird things, and it may or may not make sense. And it may not make sense in the moment, and it may make sense 6 months from now. There's just no way to know. I get things where I'm like, okay, this doesn't make any sense to me now, but 6 months, a year down the road, I'm like, oh, that okay. It's like
Yes,
you just weren't ready to fully take in what you were being told.
absolutely.
Yeah, I would say those are the main ways that I use it, just because they're like, I would say the easiest.
Yeah. Accessible.
Accessible. They're accessible and they're easy buy-in for people. Not that people need to buy into it, but people that are a little not familiar or they're a little hesitant, that's an easy way for them to be like, oh, okay, there is something to this. This can absolutely benefit my pet. So, yeah, it's been interesting. Sometimes I will say it doesn't happen often, but sometimes in the moment, animals will tell me things and I would say the most, like, distinctive one in my mind was this ancient little Chi-Chi that was just this little tiny nugget of a dog that came in, and the owner's like, "We're gonna have a quality of life exam. I don't know. Is it time?" And this little Chi-Chi, clear as day, is, "It is not time. I would like pain meds, please."
Um,
And I'm like, "All right." Like,
Beautiful.
time. Let's do some pain meds. And I lost that dog to follow up because it was at a relief practice. So I don't know. But in that moment, that dog was like, I am not ready to go. Please give me pain meds. I still have life left in me. So things like that happen. Not super often, but they do happen.
That's so beautiful. I love how you explained all of that and how I really love how you integrate all of those tools into, I mean, you're practicing integrative. You're doing a whole lot of standard Western medicine as well. And this just effortlessly just sort of like slides into the mix. And it's just beautiful how you do that. I really love how you hold the wholeness, mind, body, spirit, science, woo, all of it. All of it gets in the mix for your patients. I'm inspired. I'm sure all of our listeners are like their jaw on the ground right now. Oh my God, how do I do all of this? Is there any advice that you might have for our listeners, anyone who might be either starting a house call practice or has a house call practice and might be interested in some of the modalities and the path that you've taken? Anything else about you that you'd like people to know about before we
Yeah.
close up the episode?
And I would say if you're debating and it's constantly kicking around in your head that you want to do the thing, whether that thing be like, I want to get out of general practice and I don't know what that's going to look like yet, but I need to get out, or I really want to start my own business, but I don't really want to buy a practice because that's a lot of money and people and managing people are
Don't buy a practice. P.S. Don't buy a practice. I
don't buy a
repeat.
practice. It's icky. Like, nobody wants to manage a bunch of people. It's stressful. I mean, I guess do it if that's really what you want to do, but don't.
Just don't do
Like,
it.
just do it. Just do the things. Start your own business. Start small, start slowly, start intentionally. And you don't need to have 50 patients by the end of the month. You just don't. I am a year and a half in and I still don't have 50 clients, but the clients that I have keep me very busy because that's just the way that it is, where it's like, I think I'm going to have a slow week. And then, like, the next day, I get 2 emails and 5 text messages of, hey, this issue needs to be addressed. These clientele, they don't wait on things like other clients do. They want it to be addressed. You can start small, and that's okay. And if you need a relief to fill in the meantime, so you're not drowning in bills, that's okay. It's better to build flow and have clients that you really, really do well with than to get a bunch of clients that make you unhappy and you hate seeing them. And if you get a text message from them, you're just like, oh God, this person, that's not what you want. We deal with that in general practice. We don't need that in our own practices. You get to choose. This is like a choose your own destiny situation. If you don't want to see the client that gives you the ick, like, don't see the client that gives you the ick. You don't have to. Oh, that's my biggest desire. It's just then do the thing. I know it's scary, but you don't need to have every little thing and every little detail nailed down. And maybe that's just me, like, I'm a horrible free spirit of just, let's do the thing. But really, you can't. It's not that scary. Honestly, you already know how to do everything anyway. You know how to give vaccines. That's not some secret thing that you need to learn. You just need so few things. I have a tiny little cabinet that has my supplies in it, and that's it. I don't have an insane setup in my car where I've got 6 coolers and I carry all these vaccines. I buy vaccines from clinics. Can I have vaccines, please? Can I have this, please? You just develop those relationships and go from there. Someday, maybe I'll carry vaccines, but probably not.
Why?
Why? It's a lot of overhead when I can just go buy the amount of vaccines that I need. People want to help you, especially other private practices. Now, I will say most of the practices in my area are corporately owned. And when I showed up in their lobby and introduced myself, I'm pretty sure they took the cookies and are like, thank you, and then threw everything else in the trash. And that's okay. But I tried. They were not stoked about me like darkening their doorstep.
Someone has appeared with a big shadow on their doorstep.
This here I am.
Their
just
guilt,
like,
their corporate guilt kicked in. I think that's it.
who knows? You know what? They liked the cookies and they're
Good for
welcome.
them.
I have some really great relationships with private practices and they send clients to me and it's wonderful. And I like working with them. So yeah, start small and just change it as it goes. I originally I'm not going to do vaccines because that logistically doesn't make sense. And wait, I can just buy them from people. Let me just ask if that's okay. And
Amen.
pretty much everybody says yes. They don't care. They're just like, yeah, what can we do to help you? Like, how can you succeed? What can we do to make that happen? People really are willing to help. There are colleagues out there that will help and also build a community, whatever that looks like. Connect with other house call vets in your area. I have in-home euthanasia practitioners that I've connected with because I don't do euthanasia, so I have to refer to somebody, and they do a wonderful job. And always tell my clients, I'm like, I don't do euthanasias. I refer to people that's all they do. And they do a beautiful job. They're going to do a much nicer job than what I could ever even possibly imagine doing because that's all they do. They're great at it. And I'm going to be an emotional mess and crying the whole time. And I'm going to have to try to hit a vein while I'm crying. And that's going to be awkward.
Oh, I know.
So it's just, yeah, like build a community, join the House Call Vet Academy or concierge, do the thing to get the knowledge, or you can fumble your way through it until you figure out what you're doing. And you are allowed to change your mind 15 times. It's okay. I am going to be getting ready to go to my 3rd phone service in a year and a half because I'm picky. It's like, it is what it is. You live and you learn.
Bravo. I freaking meant all of that. That was a manifesto of excellence, and you just sang the House Call Vet anthem. So I'm right there with you. I endorse seal of approval on everything you just said. Couldn't agree more. This conversation has been so much fun. I'm so happy that house call practice, concierge practice has brought us together because, seriously. So anyway, before we close up the episode, would you like to place an order inside the House Call Vet Cafe? It can be a booze, it can be a caffeinated beverage. What would you like to have?
So I'm going to do one of each.
Amazing.
So I love lavender matcha with some coconut milk because dairy's a no-go. So good. Absolutely love it. Matcha, when I first started, was it tastes like grass. And that's okay. You eventually get used to it and you appreciate that it tastes like grass. The better ones don't taste as grassy, but I really do enjoy matcha. I can't have coffee. I try and my body is like, please stop. As far as an alcoholic beverage, I love a really good gin cocktail. So same thing, like lavender, like some Earl Grey and lemon in there. So good. I like that it's light instead of heavy. Yeah. It's nice.
Delicious. Add lavender to everything. I think that's and Earl Grey. I'm all about it. Well, those sound like delightful drinks. They're coming right up. I'll be right with you after I mix that in my bar here and drink half of them myself. But anyway, this has been such a fun episode. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your wisdom and the vulnerability and the real. I really appreciate it. And I know our listeners are going to love the shit out of this episode. So thank you again. And I can't wait for our next conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the House Call Vet Cafe. If you enjoyed this episode, then hit the subscribe or follow button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never have to miss an episode. This podcast is made specifically for you, so don't be shy if you'd like to reach out and let me know your thoughts on this episode. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook as The House Call Vet Academy, where I also share more valuable content. If you're interested in learning more about consulting for House Call Vets or the House Call Vet Academy online course and community, please click on the link in the show notes. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I can't wait for you to join us for our next episode of the House Call Vet Cafe.